Well, good day, viewers. Just a Australian from the Central Coast, New South Wales, Australia, Dr. J.W. Morrison, theologist, worried about the security of the United States and Australia, given what we saw at the June 2024 presidential debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Just want to look at this lady here. I don't know much about her, but this was her immediately after the debate. Her name's Nancy Pelosi, and let's see what she said.
How do you think he did?
Compared to a person who was lying the whole time?
Okay, so she's saying lies. This is the new narrative that they've got against Donald Trump, that he's a liar.
We saw integrity on one side and dishonesty on the other. That's how I saw it.
And what do you say to former President Trump, who blames you for January 6th and says you didn't take his offer for the National Guard?
He thinks I planned my own assassination. He's sicker than I thought.
Okay, there's one of those videos. Let's go to this one. Sky News Australia.
This is an opportunity for Joe Biden to go out there and show he has the stamina and the rest. And by the way, while the press, and for some reason they don't, there are healthcare professionals who think that Trump has dementia, that his connection, his thoughts do not go together.
This lady's speech doesn't sound real good at the moment. And neither does her demeanour seem very good at the moment. I think they've been confronted with the reality of the situation that they're in with the president, Joe Biden, after the debate, which was not good. I mean, you don't have to be a politician and into all that to see that something's seriously wrong. And if you were watching from another country and you were serious about the land of Australia or America, and whether they're, in a condition to be able to defend themselves, I would be looking at it and going, my goodness, no, they're weak.
And while he may be saying we're enablers, we see Joe Biden up close. We know how...
This lady is struggling herself, very similar to Joe Biden, not quite as bad, but her speech just doesn't seem right. She's struggling.
Tuned he is to the issues, how informed he is. And I debate with him about legislation, and not debate, but discuss it with him. He's right there.
Well, I don't know who she's trying to kid, and these people are leading the USA. These are the leaders of the USA. It's like they've got no conscience about lying or really getting things right. And there's one more here.
Welcome back. There are a few people who have won more races, raised more money, knows more about Democratic politics and voters than my next guest. She also knows Joe Biden very well. Joining me now.
So this is Nancy Pelosi's channel. This will be interesting. Let's see what sort of bias is going on here.
House Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi. Speaker Pelosi, we're going to talk about Joe Biden. You know him so well. He's a nominee of the Democratic Party, and there's a lot to talk about. But I do want to start with something I don't think has received enough attention, which is Donald Trump and his performance in that debate. Because there were some alarming things he said during that debate. As you were watching, what stuck out to you as the moment where you wish it would be blasted everywhere and people would watch it and understand the threat he poses?
Well, how are you? Good to see you.
Great to see you.
There's competition for that moment. There's stiff competition for that moment because it was a constant manifesto again of lies. As you may recall, I tore up his speech at the State of the Union because it was a total manifesto of lies, and that's what we saw the other night, which must be rejected, as well as his candidacy. Of course.
What troubles me as an Australian worried about the security of our country if the United States don't fix itself up is I don't think Donald Trump completely lied, if he did lie. And I think it's gotten to a point where he has the authority to get things right in America. If you've had 8 to 11 million people cross your border, that's how many armies are in, viewers, how many armies are in 8 to 11 million people? How many armies is that? So if they can't stop civilians crossing their border, right, let's think about this for a minute. If they can't stop 8 million to 11 million, I don't know the exact number, I've heard different figures, from crossing their borders, how are they going to stop an army from crossing their borders? Can you see what I'm saying? I don't know about this lady. She's got a lot of, obviously, merit, but let's see.
Of course, one that stood out was about January 6th. This man would not send the National Guard. The Republicans know that because some of them were in there when we were asking for it, begging for it to the Secretary of the Army, the Secretary of Defense, and the president, of course, is the ultimate commander-in-chief, and he would not send it. So for him to go on TV and lie about that, the instigator of an insurrection against the Congress of the United States, against the Constitution of the United States, against the Capitol of the United States.
To me, I'm sorry, viewers, but to me, I don't think that represents Trump fairly at all, unless I'm missing something that Trump's done. What? He blamed her for whatever happened on January 6th.
And just pass it off. So that was tough. But in terms of what it means at the kitchen table for America's working families, for him to talk about Roe v. Wade the way he did, either he doesn't know what he's talking about.
That's the issue of abortion. Trump's conflict with that was that he thinks there's, a fetus should only be given a certain duration in its conception before abortion should be allowed. And his problem with what they want to do is that the fetus is, almost, in some cases, a living person. And one of the examples I heard for this is if a baby's born premature at 6.5 months or 7 months and it survives, it's a living person. So all this stuff about abortion, Trump's argument is we don't want abortion if we can help it, if the child or the fetus is at a certain age. It's got to have a stop at a certain age, unless of situations of duress. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, do you? They're making all this fuss over nonsense. They've got foreign countries watching their country going, these people are not in order. And these other countries like China and North Korea and Russia, they're disciplined countries. These people are toying around with who's male, who's not. You can be male one day and female the next. And these other countries are watching and going, wow, these people are getting weaker and weaker.
Or he's totally lying, or both. So it's a terrible combination. So when people look at that, okay, it was not a good night. Let's face that in terms of performance for Joe Biden. He's so much better than that. But what it means to people in their lives, he answered questions about policy. How can you have a legitimate debate when somebody is totally lying and you have to complain?
What I don't understand about all this stuff that these people, these American politicians are arguing about, is that look, I'm only a simple spectator, Australian bricklayer, theologist spectator. But I watched Donald Trump, and he seemed to be doing a lot of things right for America. And it seemed to me like he was doing a lot more for America than what these people are.
Completely dispel their falsehoods. But in any case, three things I would say. A woman's right to choose, he lied about that. This is very important to women. It's a freedom issue. It's an economic issue.
This is another thing that I got a problem with this abortion, right? If a female gets pregnant, and it takes two to tango, what do they mean by it's a freedom of choice if she wants the baby or not? Of course it is in the early conception aspects of a pregnancy. But it's got to get to a point where, hang on a sec, this fetus has gotten to a commitment stage. We have to, as a humane, integral, moral, constitutional, Christian constitutional nations, the United States and the UK and Australia, give a commitment to that life. It's not there's an element of freedom in it up until a certain ingestion point or development point of the fetus. I don't know if people agree with this or not, but that's how I see it. If you get pregnant and you're onto it early and you go, no, I don't want this, then yeah, fair enough. But if it's gotten to a point where that little person in there is actually a person and they just haven't come into the world yet and they need our support and the mother's welfare and care for the child in this belly to get through and out into this world, then that's the commitment you make when you get pregnant. But I don't think, and I don't think I've got it wrong, these people think that you can terminate a fetus or a child if it's just been born at any point. And I'd like some comments on that.
The kitchen table issue, it's a personal issue. In terms of jobs, Joe Biden, 15 million new jobs. The other guy, the worst job performance since Herbert Hoover. And he's saying, oh, he did this and he did that.
I don't know if that's completely true. If that's true, then America's in a pretty bad state, because if you go onto Google and look at the amount of homelessness and all the shops and shopping centres and malls that are closing in the United States, it's alarming. Like shops in the big cities, most of the big cities have got boarded up shops. And there's videos of it on YouTube. You look up these guys that go walking around, they're showing you all the shops and things that are breaking down and closing, all the homeless and all the drugs and millions of people. And this lady's sitting there like they've created all these jobs and that. I'd like to see, really see how this has happened. If she has created 15 million, or Biden, this office has created 15 million jobs, it must be for all the immigrants. Or the people that got the 15 million jobs are paying their tax to support the 8 million immigrants. See, it's not one thing against the other. No. I thought President Trump was rebuilding America and starting businesses and all the rest of it. That's how it appeared to me, but you don't get that side of it from these people. I think it's pretty clear to see where this has gone for the Democrats and their performance. And I think it was pretty clear to see what Donald Trump did in his presidency. You got to understand, Donald Trump's presidency was hijacked by these people. They hijacked it. They just belted against it and against it and against it, and caused, in a lot of ways, caused it to break down.
That in terms of COVID, it was terrible. His denial and his delay on COVID.
No, if you look back at how President Trump was going to handle COVID, it was probably one of the most rational ways in which it could have been done. The world got their management of COVID wrong, completely wrong. People lost their jobs, people lost their access to their employment. If you didn't get the jab, you were treated like the Jews in World War II by the Germans. It was horrific, and there's no conscience.
He killed people. What he did on January 6th, people died or were hurt. This is a dangerous person and evil. And then I would say on the economy,
Okay,
which is...
so now she's calling President Trump evil. These are big words. Dangerous, evil.
So important. I talked about the jobs. 16 Nobel laureates, 16 economic Nobel laureates said the other guy's fiscal policies will have inflation go up. So again, it is, I mean, if you talk about climate, and he sat with the fossil fuel industry and said, give me $1 billion for my campaign so I can reverse what they've done to save the planet. So everything that matters
that didn't make sense.
People, whether it's gun violence protection, you name it, this person has been on the negative end of it all. And everybody's talking about what Joe Biden did. Thank you for asking about him, because it was terrible. And our members, the one thing I would say about them the day after...
She just said it was terrible. I've got to replay that bit. Here we go. Hang on. I'll just play that bit.
This person has been on the negative end of it all. And everybody's talking about what Joe Biden did. Thank you for asking about him, because it was terrible. And our members, the one thing I would say about them the day after, Friday morning when we went in for votes, is it was stunning to see the Republicans embrace this pack of lies. Once again, they know that that isn't true, what he was saying, or else they're just in a state of disillusionment.
I think, viewers, to be fair, I think they're all in a state of disillusionment. I think they're trying so badly to win that they've lost what really matters for their country, all of them.
But in fact, people have to make the vote for themselves. And what they saw between the two of them did not change many minds, as Molly was saying earlier, because people are smarter than that. But on the other hand, why do we talk all about Joe Biden? This guy's old. He doesn't have a stream of thought that is logical.
That's wrong. President Trump's a very wise, clever man, and he's cognitive. Joe Biden's not even cognitive. I don't know. See, this is where this lady undermines her credibility.
And nobody says anything about that he could be so disassociated from the facts. You saw on one side of the screen integrity, concern.
No. See, she's talking about disassociated with the facts. Sorry, Bills. I think they're all disassociated with the facts. But if it comes down to trusting someone, I think you'd have to trust Trump. As he said, the way things are going, Biden can't bring peace into any of the wars or anything. And this could verge towards, micro-incrementally, World War III. Oh, that'd be lovely. People forget. World War II was only, 100 years ago or something, or less than that. World War I and II. And we're toying around, arguing the toss about people's character, while the enemy nations are looking at our nations going, these people are disabled. They're not in unison.
For people. On the other side, you saw dishonesty and self-serving lies.
No question, and we have definitely been talking about it. And I think the reason it's important to talk about President Biden is for people to understand what the options are here, right? And the different choices people are throwing out there. I'm sure you've gotten a million calls from people. You've probably been talking to donors and members and everybody out there in the Democratic Party. There was a report I wanted to ask you about because anonymous sources, I'm always a little skeptical of. There's a couple of anonymous sources saying in an NBC story that you told members you were concerned about Joe Biden's viability, not his talent as a president and all of his accomplishments, but his viability as a candidate. And you're not an anonymous source. You're the person. So I want to ask.
Senior Congress Democrats, including Reps Hakeem Jeffries of New York, Jim Clyburn of South Carolina, and Nancy Pelosi of California, have privately expressed concerns about his viability. said two sources apprised of those discussions, even as they all publicly backed the president, even though they all publicly backed the president. It's a mess. Biden turns to family on his path forward after his disastrous debate. Sorry, guys. I think this needs to go beyond these people. I think the whole thing's become such a mess that the security of the United States is at risk.
Ask you if that's true.
We have informed NBC that that was not true. It couldn't be further from the truth. If anything, I'm being criticized for being so clear about Joe Biden and his decision about running for office. So that completely was not true. I don't know where they got that, but I've had a problem with NBC News and thereby some of their things they put forth. That's why you don't see me on Meet the Press or any of those shows. But the fact is, no, I never said that, and I don't know that the other people they claim said that. We have to win the election. We always subject how we go forward in terms of our mobilization at the grassroots level. And let me tell you, I've been in California, North and South. People are there for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. They are there for them. They know that this is...
Guys, I don't believe that. I believe there's an amount of people that are there, but not all of them.
Challenging. No, it's difficult. It always is. Elections are tough. They're not easy things. They're tough. And you have to own the ground to get out your vote. You have to have a message of what difference it makes in people's lives. The kitchen table issues of personal freedom and job opportunity and education and climate and the rest, guns, violence protection and the rest, and what it means to people. And you have to have the money to get it done. And Joe Biden has, he raised $14 million after that poor performance in the debate. But let me just...
So she's calling it a terrible performance, poor performance. This ain't adding up for me, viewers.
Say this. One of the things that did happen is people have said to me, we're going to give so much more money now to you for the House Democrats because watching, I hate to use his name, what's his name, lie so much on TV, we know we must win the House, as at the same time we elect the president and we elect a Democrat.
But what she's not saying is Joe Biden lied as well. Let's just have a quick look at a fact check on this. President Biden and former President Trump. Let's have a look. Pants on fire. Immigration officials arrested 103,700 non-citizens with criminal convictions in this watch, Biden's watch. Not everyone was let in. The term non-citizens includes people who may not have had legal immigration. Biden, I've changed the law in the way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border legally. The Department of Homeland Security announced that illegal immigration encounters dropped by 40% to fewer than 2,400 each day. In the weeks after Biden announced the policy, Trump, we had the safest border in history of our country. Mostly false. Biden, while talking about a bipartisan border bill, by the way, the Border Patrol endorsed my position, half true. Trump, Biden allowed in 18 million people, false. Immigration officials have encountered immigrants illegally crossing the border at 9.7 million. Oh my God. When you account for getaways, people who aren't stopped by the border officials, the number rises to about 11.4 million. This is what I'm talking about with armies. Like if this many people are crossing their borders, they ain't stopping an army. Abortion, the problem Democrats have is they're radical because they will take the life of a child in the 8th month, the 9th month, or even after birth. False. Willfully terminating a newborn's life is infanticide and is illegal in every US state. Inflation and economy. Trump, he caused this inflation. I gave him a country with essentially no inflation. It was perfect. Mostly false. Trump, you look at the cost of food, which they say this one's false. Biden, economists say Trump proposed tariffs are going to cost the average American $2,500 a year more. Mostly true. Jobs, Biden, semiconductor jobs. To build these chips pay over $100,000. You don't need a college degree for them. Mostly false. Black unemployment is the lowest level it's been in a long, long time. Mostly true. Trump, the only jobs Biden created are for illegal immigrants and bounce back jobs, bounce back from COVID. False. They're giving a lot of false to Trump here. Trump, Biden indicted me because indicted me because I was his opponent. False. Social Security, whatever Trump said there is false. Biden, Trump wants to get rid of Social Security. He thinks there's plenty to cut in Social Security. That's false. Trump, he wants to raise your taxes by 4 times. He wants everybody's taxes to be raised 4 times. False. Biden, I said I'd never raise the tax on anybody if you're making less than $400,000, and I didn't. Mostly true, not completely true. I gave you the largest tax cut in history. False. Biden, this is a guy who says Hitler done some good things. Don't know what relevance that has. Biden, Trump called Nazis protesting in the crowd in Charlottesville, Virginia in 2017 very fine people. Crime. Trump said false. Half-truth for Biden. Mostly false, Trump. So there's a lot of false stuff going on here from both sides. Trump, Pelosi said I'll take full responsibility for January 6th. False. That's not what former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, D.C. said. In a 41-second video taken on January 6, 2021, Pelosi said, I take responsibility for not having them just prepare for more, referring to U.S. Capitol security. She did not say she took responsibility for January 6th on the Capitol attack. Records show that Pelosi approved a January 6, 2021 request to seek support from the National Guard and pushed to get National Guard troops to the U.S. Capitol when their deployment was delayed by hours that day. Worst president rankings. Biden, president. Historians voted who was the worst president in American history from best to worst. They said Trump. That's true. Gulf movement, etc.
A Democratic Senate. So let's be calm. Let's be prayerful. It's a Sunday morning. Let's be clear in terms of evaluating what the possibilities are and the rest. But let us recognize that Joe Biden has been a great president of the United States, and what he is putting forth for the future. It's not about the past. Nobody votes for you because you deserve it. They want to know what you're going to do next. And what he has next to do is to continue his agenda for the people, putting people over politics. And that means more for women in the workplace, family and medical leave, child tax credit, affordable child care, so that many more women can participate in all of the bills that he passed, whether it's to protect our veterans. Imagine that this guy was trying to lay claim to doing more for veterans. We did hundreds of billions of dollars to help veterans who are victims of burn pits. And then denying that he said what he said about the veterans. Just think of what he said about John McCain, a national hero, a prisoner of war. Just such a super patriot, and this guy was downgrading him because he was captured. There's something wrong there, and there's something doubly wrong by the Republicans who wrap their arms around that because because money rules on the Republican side, whether it's the fossil fuel industry, whether it's the gun industry, whether it's the pharmaceutical industry. That's what rules them. We're there for the people.
One of the things that I consider when I'm listening to all this is I can't figure this out. I thought Trump was doing a fantastic job, but everyone was against him. Kind of reminds me of Kevin Rudd, the Australian politician. I don't think they gave him a chance to really get his teeth into the job. They just kept knocking him out. And I think this is where, if I got any doubt about Trump being the president, it would be the fact that he's going to have too much internal opposition from the people outside of those supporting him. Unfair opposition.
We're going to keep talking about this. We have to leave in a very quick break, but we're going to keep talking about this in the path forward right after that. We're back with House Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi. So I have one more question for you. We've been talking on this show just about all the different paths, just to help people understand. Congressman Jim Clyburn said, quote, recently, I'm a Biden-Harris person, so I'm not getting away from that. I'm for Biden-Harris. I'm going to be for Biden if Harris ain't there. And I'm going to be for Harris if Biden ain't there. I just want to be very clear here. There's no indication Joe Biden is not going to be the nominee. But are you in the same place as Clyburn, your colleague?
Well, I'm in my own place, and that place is I support the Biden-Harris ticket. I think they have a very successful presidency and vice presidency and have more to get done. And hopefully if we can get rid of the filibuster and pass bills with 51 votes instead of 60, we can accomplish much more as we go forward.
Does that mean, though, that you'd support Harris if Biden... If Biden wasn't on the ticket, you'd support Harris?
You know what? Biden is going to be... I'm saying to you that I support the Biden-Harris ticket. I'm not abandoning Joe Biden right now for any speculation. Biden-Harris, both of them. I'm enthusiastically supporting them, as are many of our grassroots people. So while the intelligentsia may have some analysis of what people are thinking, what we're hearing that people are thinking is they support the ticket, and I support the ticket.
I don't support the ticket. I don't know what that means, but I don't support the ticket. I'm going for Trump.
Voters are most important. Let me ask you about the Supreme Court.
Okay.
I wanted to just ask you about the Supreme Court, because there is a very important ruling that's coming down tomorrow morning regarding presidential immunity. They've waited for 6 months. They've delayed, making it so that the American public will not see a hearing, will not see a verdict on its very important case. What is your reaction to all of this? What are you watching for? What should people understand about the delay and what we're looking ahead to tomorrow?
Well, thank you for that question. If the court tomorrow says that the former president is above the law, they will have done a grave disservice to justice in our country. Let us hope that they have some show us.
The part that concerns me about this is nobody seems to know what the 34, specifically what the 34 indictments are against Trump. And I think the courts may, I don't know what the decision was. It seemed to be positive for Trump. These people will use whatever they have to keep Trump out. The thing that concerns me about Trump getting in, as I said, is sabotage. Sabotage. Because as far as I'm concerned, he was completely sabotaged as the president.
Some allegiance to their oath of office to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. And that just because you're president doesn't mean you're immune from prosecution if you break the law. So that will be a big test for the court tomorrow to see if they honor their oath of office.
They've given us a lot to doubt them lately.
By delaying as they have undermined justice in our country, in my view.
No question. Could not agree with you more.
And by the way, let's just go back to January 6th. Let's go back to January 6th, because this is one of the charges against the president. The president goes on TV and says, I planned my own assassination. No, I didn't. He did. They're going to hang they're going to hang the vice president of the United States, and they're going to put a bullet in my F-word head. And he will not send the National Guard. People were injured, over 100 law enforcement people were injured. Some people died because of him. And people died again because of his delay and denial about COVID. This is a totally
I don't fully believe what she's saying.
Irresponsible person. And again, this Supreme Court would say that a person is above the law, and they've waited months to come to a conclusion about it. It's going to be a very important day for America.
Absolutely.
And again,
no better way to...
as you know, I'm always quoting the always quoting the national anthem. Proof through the night that our flag is still there.
So hang on, I'm going to see if I can find this result. Well, there's a few videos on it, but here's one. It's only short. Fox News.
Fox News alert. We're going to get out of that commercial break because we have word that the Supreme Court has issued a ruling on the extent of presidential immunity from criminal prosecution for conduct alleged to involve official acts during the tenure of President Trump. This is the big one we've been waiting for. It's consequential. It's really interesting that the Supreme Court, in 248 years of our history, has never actually ruled on this. So it is big and sweeping. And I have our political panel looking over this right now. Andy McCarthy, Chief Justice John Roberts has the writing on this. He's got the pen. Is that significant?
It's very significant. This is the most important case of the term in terms of the long-term interests of the executive branch, in terms of the short-term interests of Donald Trump. And it looks like, at least within the bounds of clear executive authority, what Chief Justice Roberts is saying is that the president clearly has immunity from prosecution. So the question is going to be, again, I think Trey underscored this before, is what is an official act? There's going to be a lot of litigation about that, and what's close to the core of clear executive constitutional authority versus the outer ambit of it.
Brett?
Do we have Shannon? Is she going through the paperwork? Shannon, you there?
Yes. Yes, I am here, if you can hear me. Let me read you a little bit of what we have from the court. It does find this. Under our constitutional structure of separated powers, the nature of presidential power entitles a former president to absolute immunity from criminal prosecution for actions within his conclusive and preclusive constitutional authority. He is entitled to at least presumptive immunity from prosecution for all his official acts. There is no immunity for unofficial acts. That's the first blush we've got on this. It looks like a 6-3 split. We've got the dissent by Justice Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson join that. There is a kind of split decision on some of these. Somebody joins in one part, not in another part, but that's the overall holding of the court. So what it means now, we'll have to dig into this and see if they tell us now, how do you decide an official act versus an unofficial act? Because that's going to be critical, having now said the president does have absolute immunity from criminal prosecution for actions within his conclusive and preclusive constitutional authority. We'll dig in, see how they define those official acts, and look for a little bit more from you from the opinion. But at first blush, this looks like it is going to be a win for the argument for presidential immunity when it comes to allegations of criminal activity.
What's interesting is that, you know, I'm sure if you're the Biden White House, you're paying close attention to this as well, because in the situation that we find ourselves in the utilization of the justices in politics. Let me go to you, Jonathan Turley, for a reaction to this decision so far.
Well, this is along the lines of what many of us anticipated, that the court did not go with absolute immunity on everything, but did say that there's absolute immunity when it comes to core constitutional powers. We're still going through the opinion to see if there's any assistance on where that line is to be drawn. this case is going to have to go back to the district court, which is going to have to try to sort of thread this needle to determine what in the case would not fall under these protections. But this is obviously a win for President Trump in the sense that the special counsel was arguing, as with the lower court, that there was very little immunity here to be concerned with. The counsel for the government was assuring the court that they really didn't have much to be concerned with here in terms of any changes in the status of the case. That's clearly not what won the day. The court here is saying that we do need lines here drawn to protect presidents so they have some breathing room. And you have to sort of wonder how the context affected the justices. I mean, if they want to look at the implications of leaving presidents without protection, they just need to look around the country. Even though Manhattan was not a federal case, it was a political prosecution in the view of many of us that was rather raw and open. And so this is a context that must have concentrated the minds of these justices as they did what Justice Gorsuch said and tried to write for the ages, to have something not for this case, but for future cases and future presidents.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I mean,
So the ruling they're talking about went in the favor of Trump.
Absolutely.
And again,
no better way to...
as you know, I'm always quoting the always quoting the national anthem. Proof through the night that our flag is still there. We have to prove through this night that our flag is still there with liberty and justice for all as we celebrate the 4th of July.
Perfect way to end. House Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi, I always enjoy talking to you. Love your passion, everything you've ever done.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much.